Hi there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B, and today I have the pleasure of having Attorney Donald Jenkins. Welcome.
Oh, welcome to you, Marty. Good to be here.
Yes,
We're glad to be here.
Such a pleasure to have a new face. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is you do, what you can offer to our viewers. I know today the topic is disability law. Now, a lot of you guys may have that need or may have a family member or friend that has disability, and that's what Attorney Donald Jenkins is here. Now, I know you're with Solo and Solo Attorneys at Law.
Correct.
Awesome. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, as you said, my name is Donald Jenkins. I do work for the firm Solo and Solo. I've been with them for about nearly 8 years now. It's easy for me to keep up with that date because, believe it or not, I have a 7-year-old son.
Oh, wow.
And I started right before he was born.
Aww,
so I'd like to
so
say hi
sweet.
to Caleb out there. Hope he's watching Sunday
Hey, Caleb.
And since I've been with them, I've been primarily doing traffic ticket defense, and also now we're expanding into doing disability because there's so many people out there. There's such a need, and there's such a lack of knowledge about the process itself. We decided to help fill that market and get people the information that will help improve the status of a lot of people's lives in Greater Houston area.
Absolutely. I know a lot of the attorneys that come here, the main focus is to help you guys, the viewers, and to change lives. So that's beautiful to hear. So what I heard is you do disability law, but you guys also do traffic type of tickets, correct?
Correct.
So we could even talk about that. So if you guys have any of those topics in question, he's super knowledgeable. We're talking 8 years underneath his belt. So have you been practicing total for 8 years or just been with Solo and Solo Attorneys at Law?
Solo and Solo for 8 years. Altogether practiced for law nearly 20 years.
Ooh, okay. So there's a lot of knowledge in the room, a lot of wisdom in regards to the disability law and traffic law as well. Now, I know you told us a little bit about your profession. So as far as yourself, we're around the corner of the holidays. Holidays is creeping up. We're already in the mix of a lot of festivities. There's a lot of, company parties, and Hanukkah already started. So what are you doing for the holidays?
Well, I will probably be most of the holidays here in Houston. My family's originally from Shreveport. I'm a graduate of LSU Law School. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
So I will spend at least a day either right before Christmas or right after Christmas back at home with my mom. I have still some family left there in Louisiana.
Awesome.
So we're going to do some really good North Louisiana, almost Cajun type cooking.
Oh.
So that's going to be exciting. I spend some with my son, a lot of different Christmas lights, Kwanzaa festivals, Hanukkah festivals, things are going on around here, and he's still at that age where everything is yay,
Yeah,
so
it's a fun age for sure.
7 is a great age.
Yeah, so tell me that you do cook some of the Creole food.
I mostly eat a lot of
you're
Creole
the eater.
food.
Okay.
That's right. That's my specialty. I'm the professional taster in the family still.
That's perfect. Well, you have a very fast metabolism because it doesn't show, so that's awesome.
Thank you.
So Shreveport is where you'll be for the holidays, which is awesome. How far is that drive?
Well, it's a 4-hour drive, and it's not interstate all the way. It's a lot of small towns in between. So I've gotten familiar with a lot of places I've never heard of on that 4-hour drive up to the north. But it's scenic in its own way. I mean, that part of East Texas, western Louisiana, that has a little different feel to it than we get down here.
So let me ask you, you said Shreveport, that's where you're from. So are you also licensed in the state of Louisiana?
I was at one point.
Okay.
Yeah, I no longer have my Louisiana license.
Okay, so we're talking Texas right now. Some of these things I know your answers are going to be based off of the Texas law.
Correct.
I do want to let you guys know if it is another state, there might be some changes in the law, correct?
Certainly.
So we're going to assume that these are Texas questions, but please, guys, if you can specify if it's a different state, so that way you can give the best answer.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, perfect. So speaking about the holidays, which is awesome, and around the corner, it's my favorite time. It's starting to get a little chilly. We have the tree, Kwanzaa, and the Hanukkah candles here as well. But we do something here at D. Miller & Associates that is called 12 Days of Christmas. A lot of you guys may see other companies doing it, and so we pick definitely 12 gifts that we want to give for 12 days. So we started off with the 12 gifts, 11, 10, 9, etc. Now, you guys see the post on the screen right now. It's such a beautiful time. We've already given the 12th, the 11th, the 10th, and I think today's the 9th one. So it's beautiful because we get to go out there and see smiles on people's faces. And the time of giving is just an amazing time. I don't know what your opportunity is with Solo and Solo, what your giving process is, but it's just always super rewarding to give back to the community.
I know, it's going to be so heartwarming, and to see that you guys get out and actually interact with people that you have a social media presence with, however it might be, just to see those smiles on their face. That's what makes the holiday season worthwhile.
Absolutely. Well said. Now you guys will see, I encourage you guys to go to our Facebook page and see those pictures. We have a bunch of pictures of the gifts that we've already been giving, as well as the gifts we will be giving here in the future. So I want you guys to definitely take a look at that and like it. It's such a beautiful time of the year. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I know we have some questions right now, and they're eagerly waiting, but I want to open up those lines of communication for you guys if you have any questions for Attorney Donald Jenkins in regards to disability law. Now, he does have experience also in the traffic tickets. A lot of viewers, believe it or not, have that question.
Yes.
When I go to events or if we get phone calls, I get a lot of those questions. We don't do that here at DeMille and Associates. But what an amazing guest to answer those questions that you guys may have. So I do have a question that has came up, and this one is Jen. Jen is saying, who is eligible for Social Security disability benefits?
Okay, well, that's a great question. That's the very start of the process. To be eligible for Social Security benefits, there's what's called a 5-step sequential process. And I don't want to get into too much legal talk, but there are 5 things they look for to determine who's disabled. The first part of it is being disabled. It means that you haven't worked for at least a year, or that what's wrong with you is expected to keep you from working for at least a year. Whatever the condition may be it mental, physical, or some combination thereof, if that keeps you from working for a year, if it's already kept you from working for a year, then you've crossed the first step in the hurdle. That's not the end of the inquiry necessarily, but that's the first step in the hurdle. For disability, even children under certain circumstances, very limited circumstances, can be found disabled. Okay? There's a very strict medical requirement for those. But if a child has an impairment that would look like something that person could not do any type of work in the economy, then that person, even as a child, may be eligible for Social Security disability benefits. So that's a good starting point, is to say you're not working and something mental keeps you from working.
Yeah. Those are awesome guidelines to use as far as the Social Security. So my question to you, Donald, is where do you get involved in the process whenever someone gets denied the claim, or do they come to you from the beginning like, hey, I have a child, or myself, whatever the case may be, is disabled, could you help us? Where do you actually come in the process?
That's a great question too. Most attorneys don't get involved in what's called the initial application process. The initial application process is where either you start online at ssa.gov and start the process online, or you go to one of about 17 different Social Security offices in the greater Houston area. It's where you fill out a form and say basically how old you are, what your education was like, what type of work you did, and what your mental or physical impairments are, and how they affect your ability to do work in the past or going forward for that 12-month period that we're talking about. Now, in most cases, I am willing to help somebody start that initial application because I believe a good application gives you a better chance of a successful outcome. Now, that's not where attorneys actually recover any fees, but I believe that's helpful. It helps educate the community. So I am usually willing to help somebody even in the initial application stage. Most lawyers, on the other hand, don't get involved until after the second stage, which is called reconsideration. After the initial application, the Social Security makes an initial determination about whether or not you're eligible. 80% of initial application claims are denied. I mean, I want you to try to put your mind around that. They haven't even seen you. They haven't necessarily even talked to your doctors. They have a cursory or very superficial review of your medical records, but still 80% of those claims get denied. And that's the next stage where you appeal the denial is called reconsideration. And that's where most lawyers try to get involved, is after the reconsideration stage, because at that point, the lawyer's ability to collect the fee is well established. So, from a financial standpoint, that makes sense for most lawyers. However, I am usually willing to talk with clients and help them in the initial application stage.
Wow, that's awesome. So I know, Attorney Donald, that's great that you're willing to help in step 1. I know it's more common to come in the tier 2 or the step
Tier
2,
3.
right? Or 3. However, you're willing to help because I know you said earlier that's what you like to do, is help our community. Now that a website will be also located in the comment section, so that way you guys can click it really quick. And if you guys have the need to go on there, hopefully, is it user friendly, that website, to where they can guide through?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. It
Okay.
is. In terms of our government website, ssa.gov is relatively user friendly. I've done it myself for clients that weren't in the room with me. It takes some back and forth, but there's a way to hold your process, your application in advance or hold, so you can add information to it. So.
Okay, so that's ssa.gov. For you guys to find that out. Now, if there's someone that may be watching and you're not able because you are disabled, Attorney Donald Jenkins can also help. And
Sure.
I know your contact information is also on the screen, so you guys are able to call Solo and Solo Attorneys at Law and definitely ask directly for Attorney Donald Jenkins, and that way he knows from Talk to Me Tuesday. So we're going to move on, and now Hank has a question. So, what about my family? Are they entitled to Social Security disability benefits?
In certain circumstances, your family members are. Social Security disability benefits are there's actually two programs. There's what's called the SSI program, Supplemental Security Income, and what we typically think of as typical disability, Title 16, Social Security disability. The SSI program is for people who don't have a sufficient earning record.
Okay.
That's one. And there are very, very few circumstances which family members are entitled to benefits under that program. But under the broader program, where the government takes money out of your income to pay for the disability program, where you pay into a system, in many of those cases, your dependent children are eligible for income from that program when you're found disabled. Even your surviving spouse may also be eligible for benefits under that program as well.
Wow.
So the general answer to that question is yes, for Title II Social Security disability.
Wow. So, like he said, general answer is yes. And I know we say this in our show all the time, but every case is different.
Every case is different.
Yes. So Attorney Donald Jenkins will need to get that additional information to really kind of determine what the actual answer is. There is a general answer, but there's so many components that sounds like come into play with that.
There certainly are.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is, don't eliminate yourself. Put in the application. Go through the process. Let Social Security make that decision about who's eligible and who isn't. It's your money. It's your family's money. You're entitled to it, and it's their job to help you get it or to screen you out and say that you're not eligible.
That's great advice. Great advice. It's always better to just put the application in, and then you can deal with the rest of the stuff later. Cross that bridge when you get there, right?
Certainly.
Yes, awesome. So thank you, Hank, for that question. That was an awesome question. So now I have Leanna. Leanna's asking, what is the ADA?
Right. That's the Americans with Disability Act. That's a very different program from the disability program. There may be some overlaps in terms of determining who's eligible for it and what type of benefits are involved. ADA is not an income-based program. ADA basically deals with behaviors of organizations, particularly governmental entities, that allow people with disabilities equal access to the functions, to equal access to the buildings themselves, equal treatment for people who work in organizations who have disabilities.
Wow. There's a lot of information, great, valuable information. I know the great thing about the shows, you can always go back, play it back, and watch it again, or take notes while watching this. So this is great information. There's so many programs, it sounds like, out there to help, and people might not even know what option they have. So could they also come and probably do a consultation with you and seeing which one of these really apply to them? Because you just named the ADA right now, which Leanna was asking, but you also mentioned earlier SSI. There's just so many.
Certainly. And
Yeah.
amongst any of those three programs, I'll certainly be willing to open up a communication or consultation with you and see exactly what we can do as a firm to help, or as an individual to help, or to get the community involved in helping with those things. Particularly when it comes to ADA questions, those are generally things that involve a broader number of people than a sole disability claim. So
Awesome. And I know one question that's super important, and I forgot to ask it at the beginning, but Attorney Donald, why did you choose disability law? You're very knowledgeable, and I'm that's awesome. But what made you choose the disability side of the legal world?
Well, part of my upbringing was always wanting to help people who couldn't do things for themselves, quite frankly. And I think even though early in my family I didn't have anybody that I knew personally, I just saw there's a need in society. Because obviously when you're disabled, even if it's something that's only going to last a year, but if you're disabled for the rest of your life, you've been a hard-working individual, it's a big emotional toll. It's a big financial toll. And I'd always thought that people needed concerned, informed representatives for that sort of thing. And also I think it fits in good with certain things that I like to do. It has obviously a big medical component to it, and it's kind of like being a forensic detective to some degree, and that was attractive to me. To be able to unearth that gem of nugget, that particular legal argument, in these reams of medical files, and apply it to a legal situation was something that appealed to me. And just what I think you mentioned earlier, I get passionate about that, and the opportunity to see somebody's life change, see somebody who goes from zero income to whatever might be applicable for them in their situation, and the medical insurance benefits that are associated with that. A lot of families need that sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, and the reason why I asked is because you have a lot of passion, a lot of knowledge. Your passion shows for sure with your answers. So that's great. Very, very kind-hearted and just wanting to help. And that's what the point of all of this is, to educate, to help, and to be there for those viewers or the society or the community that is in need of a help of disability. So that's awesome. So I have another question that has came up. This one is Mike. So Mike is saying, are there different types of Social Security disability benefits? I think he just heard what I was saying, because I was feeling the same way, Mike. So is there different types of Social Security disability benefits?
Yes, there are. I mentioned two of them in past. One, the SSI program, the Social Supplemental Income Program, and the Title 16 Disability Program. So the SSI is for people who are disabled but who haven't paid into the system. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, all those benefits are unfortunately only you have to be a U.S. citizen to be eligible for them. Okay. And that's why I find it somewhat painful. We've got a lot of hardworking people here who have worked nearly their entire adult life, and they've actually paid into the system to some degree, but because they're not U.S. citizens, they can't get back those benefits. And certainly I would hope at some point that might change. But right now, that is the current status of the law. So that's one program. It's called SSI. The other is the Title II Disability Program, where the money is taken from your income, deposited in the system, so that when you're disabled, it's there for you and your family. So those are two major programs.
Okay, so there's two major programs. Good clarification. I know you said only U.S. citizens. So if they're residents, they don't qualify, unfortunately. So if any of you guys are watching and have that type of situation, that's a good clarity on how to obtain these benefits. So thank you, Mike, for that question. We do have Ben. Ben is asking, I am disabled, but I have plenty of money in the bank. Do I have to wait until the money is gone before I apply for Social Security benefits?
That's another very good question. Excellent. No, you do not, Ben. If you're disabled and you apply and you qualify otherwise for Title 16 disability, Social Security disability, not the SSI program, you're right. If you qualify only for SSI, if you don't have a work history at all, and you qualify only for SSI, there are what's called spend down provisions. I believe that's what Ben is referring to, spend down. And there's an asset test for SSI, but there is no asset test for Title 16 Social Security disability. The work-based program, there is no asset requirement for that. I have plenty of clients I've represented before. They get workers' comp. They made a lot more money than me. They've got a lot more tangible assets than I have, but they're eligible because they're disabled and they paid into the system.
Okay. So a lot of information. You're teaching me a lot too, because I have never heard as much information about the disability law. So that is a great question, Ben. If you have any additional questions, please reach out, direct message. If not, you can also give a call to Attorney Donald Jenkins in the phone number that is on the screen. So we do have Crystal. Crystal's asking, how can I apply or submit a claim for Social Security disability benefits or SSI?
Okay. Once again, as you said before, you can do it on the internet, ssa.gov, or one of about 17 local offices in the greater Houston area. Find one that fits in best with your zip code. That's the way to search them. Find ones in that zip code. They do have people on staff. Sometimes there's a big wait before you can actually see somebody. You may arrive as early as 8 in the morning and not see somebody till 1 o'clock.
Oh my!
But that's that is one of the drawbacks to an overworked system.
Yeah.
But it's your money. If you believe you're disabled, be persistent, be courageous, apply.
Yeah, so because of that long wait, I know the website is also in the comment section. It might be a better deal to go through the online process. But if you're just not able, if you don't have a computer, either your local library as well as, or either go into the office or several locations
Right.
here in Houston.
Okay. And let me clarify one point. Even though you start the application online, in 99% of the cases, you will still have to come face to face with the Social Security claimant's representative.
Okay.
There will be some documents that you will have to sign in person at some point.
So you cannot avoid that long
Yeah,
line.
that's right. At some point, you will not be able to avoid at least some part of that line. Now, if you start your application process online, it's obviously going to be a much more streamlined event for you.
Yeah.
But at some point, you will have to be face to face with some claims representative at some
Way
point.
to clarify that, because I was trying to get them to avoid the lines.
Yeah,
you know?
unfortunately, at some point, you will have to go to an office at some point at least to get your signatures on some documents, and so they can examine your own identification, that sort of
Got
thing.
it.
And I understand that that's to lessen the possibility of fraud.
Yes.
So.
And this is also the same office that if you lose your Social Security number, you go. So there's multiple things going on in that
That's
office.
right.
So it makes sense of the long lines. So is there a certain time period in the year that's probably more a busier time for the disability office, or is it pretty much busy all year round?
From what I understand from talking with different offices, some offices, they have a consistent heavy workload. Some offices, you're right, they're more seasonal in nature.
Okay.
So certain off-peak times are generally the summer times. In some ways that makes sense because even though you may be disabled, family members are less inclined to help a person during that time. So those are some early summers or off-peak hours. This, unfortunately, the holiday season is not, because for the claimants represented themselves, that's holiday season for them, so the staffs are usually shorter. So if I would say if there's anything else, in smaller offices, try the early part of the summer and maybe a couple months into when school gets started.
Yeah.
So smaller offices.
Yeah. So avoid around the holidays because it might be short on staff. And the lines might be probably double what he just stated, and the time might be double of that. So that is a great clarifying answer as well. So I have Jacob is asking, what is a moving violation?
That's a great question, Jake. And as Mara mentioned, yes, we do a lot of traffic ticket defense work. Now, a moving violation, and there are about 25 of them under what's called the Texas Transportation Code. That's the state law that determines what a moving violation is. Let me give you some examples. Failure to put on your blinker, they call it failure to signal, is a moving violation. Obviously, speeding is. That is going a certain amount over the posted speed limit. Failure to stop at a stop sign is a moving violation. Pretty much anything involving the active operation of a vehicle or its interaction with other vehicles can be considered a moving violation. So like I said, about 27 of them. I could rattle off 12 or 15 off the top of my head, but basically Texas Transportation Code outlines what those are and what's called the point system associated with each of those violations.
Wow. Okay, so I know I've had some of those moving violations in my time period, none recently, so let's knock on wood so it doesn't happen. And I know you mentioned just now the point system. I don't know if that's only Texas or if it's newer, but what happens if you get too many of these moving violations?
And it's very important, I think, for citizens to understand this. Texas is one of about 20 states that operates under this point system, and they do something that the other states don't do. They criminalize traffic behavior, okay? They criminalize traffic behavior. It's called a misdemeanor. We may get into that at some point. If you get so many points in a certain period, DPS, Texas Department of Public Safety, can suspend your license or impose surcharges. Now, the way it basically works, if you get 6 points in a 3-year period, DPS can suspend your license under what's called the Habitual Offender Program, okay? Or they can impose surcharges of as much as $300 every time you go to renew your license. And also, those points can get reported to your insurance company and obviously can negatively affect your insurance rates. That
Wow.
means make them go up. So
Yeah, that is crazy. So why, I don't know if you know this answer, but why did Texas move to the point system? It sounds like it's almost like if you get so many of these violations, you're either going to have to pay a lot or just not drive.
well, correct. And the more cynical side of my personality believes just that. It's an effort to remove people they find undesirable from the highways. And it obviously it impacts somebody's ability to take their children to school, to get to work, to do everything it is we take for granted for doing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times we don't even know we've run afoul of these sorts of things. So it's a system that's fraught with unfairness, and the more knowledge you have about how to conduct yourself on the roadways and the ramifications of getting a traffic stop, the better you are, the better you're going to be able to protect your family and protect your livelihood.
Yeah. In the future, or could the point system change and go back to what it used to be, which is the non-point system?
I would doubt that. By now, the insurance companies love it. The legislatures love it.
Of
The
course.
police officers love it. The judges love it. It's a big source of revenue for the cities. So I don't see it going back to a more open, freer, less punitive type of system anytime
Wow.
soon.
Okay, so to wrap that comment up is basically while you're driving on the road, make sure safety first and foremost, but making sure that you abide by all laws, moving violations, try to do everything just like how you were taught in driving school.
Exactly.
To avoid this, because in the future you just don't want to run into something to where you just cannot get to work anymore, or you cannot take your child to school. Something so simple. So just not taking those things for granted, right?
You said it really well. Don't take chances. Leave early. Be aware of your surroundings. Things that you were taught during that particular driving test or back in during driver's ed.
Yes.
They have a real world impact on you now.
Yes, for sure. So you guys be very careful because it sounds like it's no joke. And then every time you renew your license, you might have a surcharge, which
could
is
happen.
also no joke right
That's
there.
right.
So thank you, Jacob, for that question. I know Sebastian is asking, how does laser detection work?
Okay, that's an excellent question. I'm going to perhaps put a little meat on the skeleton of his question. Jacob, I believe, is asking about the laser detecting unit, the thing used to measure your speed. Okay, usually it's a handheld device.
Oh, the one that they stand there.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
I get
probably
it.
what he's asking about.
I was wondering,
Mhm.
what is that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good, Jacob. It's a handheld device, usually shaped sort of like an inverted game console like this. The officer actually looks through it, and what it does, it shoots out a light beam. Okay, it's called a laser, but it's technically a light beam, and it does move at the speed of light. It strikes a target, and it tells the officer how fast that target was going and the distance from the officer to that target. It's not magnified, and there are certain pitfalls that are involved in the operation of that, and hopefully you want it in the hands of a skilled, trained operator, and sometimes, well, skills and training vary a lot, shall we say, between different officers, between HPD, between the constable's office, the sheriff office, whoever it is that may be responsible for operating the unit. But the laser gun or unit itself sends out that light beam. It hits a target. That light beam comes back in the same as the speed of light, and it gives him that information. And from there, he's got to make sure that he kept his eye on whatever target he believes he struck and apprehend that same vehicle at the same time.
Hold on, okay, so let me get this right. He's standing there and has his eye on the target that's actually moving.
That's right.
So, question number one that I have, how accurate is this device?
Well, in the hands of a skilled operator, reasonably accurate.
Okay.
But that's the question I said before. It varies a lot because just like in your job, whatever profession you're in, some people are really skilled and really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Some people are in the middle, and some people are sloppy, second-rate, and unconcerned. So you get that same sort of breakdown with police officers, be they constable, sheriffs, HPD, whatever it might be. So for some of those people, you're not going to get a very accurate reading. You're not going to stop the same vehicle. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's how it
That
happens.
was my next question. First of all, then keeping the eye on the target, and then be like, "Ooh, that target, red car, get in the car, turn it on, you already lost the
That's
target."
right. The other traffic is still continuing to do what it does, and yet somehow you've got to weed through that and get the same vehicle you believe that you struck with your laser gun.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of pitfalls along the way, and that's what we do at Solo and Solo. We have experienced lawyers, some even more experienced than myself. We challenge those things for people who don't believe they were speeding.
Wow. And then after that, do they put on the ticket somewhere that they use the laser detection, to where you can fight that? Like, if I get a ticket, how do I know how they're pulling me over? Do they say laser detection so I could be like, how do I know that you got the right person?
Excellent question, Mark. One, today they have body cameras. All of HPD has body cameras. Now, the constable's office and sheriff's office is not so much. But to answer your question, on the ticket itself, your copy of the ticket will usually not say how they measured your speed. I'm not sure why it is they do that. But the officer's copy, every good officer will put certain pieces of information. One, what lane you were in. Two, what speed he actually measured your vehicle at. Three, how far he was away from you. Okay. Now, some officers, when they don't do that, then that ticket may well be dismissed or can certainly be challenged by a defense attorney like myself, or even some of the prosecutors realize the deficiencies in that citation and may well dismiss it. But if that's the case and you're uncertain about what happened, give us a call.
Wow, that's interesting to me, because if there is some type of uncertainty, it almost is recommended to go to an attorney. You just never know. Like, you just gave me all these loopholes, and that's one little situation.
Correct. And that's one situation out of the literally hundreds of reasons you can be stopped by somebody regarding traffic enforcement.
Absolutely.
So if you got a question, if you truly don't think you were, or if you're curious about the process, call us. We do represent people in the greater Houston area in just those sorts of situations.
Wow.
No guarantees as to dismissal, but what we do guarantee is competent, vigorous legal defense.
That's awesome. You guys definitely need to reach out if you guys have been in some type of traffic, moving violation, any of these questions. These are great questions, and it's crazy because we don't know all this detail. I know I've gotten a ticket, but I don't know how they tested my speed. I didn't ask. I just take the ticket. I just sign it. Okay, let's go. But I was like, okay, my speedometer doesn't say what he said, but okay, I'm not going to argue with the cops, right?
Right. It's usually futile, if not counterproductive, to try to argue with them there. That's
Absolutely.
why you hire a lawyer. Once again, no guarantees of success, but we have those questions. It's a big money maker for the cities, and a lot of times people pay them because they don't want the hassle. But if we don't stand up for ourselves as a community, if we don't challenge them, if we don't make them accountable, then we've all lost. We've all been diminished.
Right. And now a question that I know I have, and I'm sure our viewers have, is what are the fees associated with this type? Is it contingency based, or do they pay at the beginning before obtaining the services with you guys?
That's an excellent question as well. You pay at the beginning.
At the
Traffic
beginning,
ticket defense, every firm I know is that you pay in the beginning.
Okay.
And for the most part, that takes care of. There are some other circumstances. If there's some appeals that have to be done, or if somebody wants to fight it beyond the municipal court level, then there are other fees associated with it. But for the most part, you pay one fee, and we represent you as vigorous as we can throughout that process.
Cool. So I know that's something, if you guys want specifics on the schedule of fees, I don't know if it's on your website or if they could just call up.
You have to call the office on
Call
that.
the office
Not on
on
the
that.
website. Gotta call the
Okay,
office.
perfect. Call the office to make sure you get a little bit more clarity on that schedule of fees, because I'm pretty sure, since every case is different,
Every case.
that's where the fees will be contingent upon what it is that they're talking about,
Correct.
right?
Very good summation.
That makes all the perfect sense in the world. So now we have Whitney. Whitney's asking, what is the difference between a misdemeanor traffic offense and a felony traffic offense? Whew, good
Okay.
question.
Somebody put some thought into that one.
Yeah.
A misdemeanor traffic offense is one that carries punishment of a fine only. A fine only.
Okay.
And fine amounts for court costs can range anywhere from $102 at a minimum to, believe it or not, illegally passing a school bus can be nearly $1,000 fine.
Oh my gosh.
So people, be careful out there around school buses.
Woo.
I'll change your financial plan around, at least in the short term.
Absolutely.
Okay? But you don't go to jail for those. The felony traffic offense, which are few in nature, such as felony evading through cars, when you're driving your car trying to get away from a police officer, if he determines that he starts off as a basic traffic stop, but if you go too far and not pulling over once those lights are on you, that can become a felony traffic stop. And the penalties for that are much higher. Not just your money, but your freedom could be involved as well.
Wow. So just a little note to self on that one. If you do get pulled over, just make sure you pull over to a safe right-hand shoulder. Make sure you're out of harm's way. And it sounds like if you're putting other lives in danger, that could be determined from the cops of it probably going from a misdemeanor to a felony.
Correct, and that is one of the factors that determine whether or not to move that from a misdemeanor to a felony. Did you endanger other people's lives and property, including the officer's life or property?
Yeah.
And whereas we want to challenge authority, we want to be respectful of authority, they've got families to go home to. And you made a really good point. Pull over somewhere where it's safe for you and the officer.
Is there a proper way or area to pull over? Because I know, people get pulled over in the highway and you can't just exit. I mean, look at our highways here in Houston, Texas, right? And other cities and states, if you guys are living there, it might be the same way. But do you have to exit the highway ramp, or can you just pull over? Like, what is the proper etiquette?
No, there are no hard and fast rules. The
Okay.
Transportation Code doesn't cover that. But when talking with officers, what they want is for you to start to pull over at the very first safest opportunity. Put your turn indicator on. Let them know, hey, I see you back there. We're going to do this thing in an open, dignified manner. And when you do that, that lets them know that you're compliant. That diffuses the situation more so than just, oh, golly, I'm about to get pulled over, I'm mad. Okay?
Yeah.
Pull over, as you said, hopefully to either the right or left shoulder where there's enough space so you can open up your door, he can approach your vehicle safely. So those are the guidelines that I would give anybody in that situation. And other things, I think common sense approaches come into it. If you can do it in a safe, well-lit area, please do so. So those are sorts of things I would communicate to anybody.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing out of that is showing the person pulling you over, the cop, that you are being compliant, that turn signal, even emergency lights, so that they don't think that you're fleeing the scene.
Correct.
Right?
You don't want this to go into a felony evading or do anything that would endanger yourself or have those people overreact to the situation.
Absolutely. So that's a good tip. And then, of course, always getting out of harm's way, not just for you, but also for the officer. The officer is the one that has to come out of the car.
That's right.
In traffic. And I know I've seen a lot of horrible accidents, unfortunately, to where some cops have lost lives.
They really have.
Yeah.
So they have my complete empathy and support on that because it's a dangerous situation sometimes for a minor offense. But you can lose your life. You can lose your ability to work, or he or she can, simply trying to effectuate a traffic stop.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on right along, this is Janet. Janet is asking, do you have to sign the ticket that the officer gives you when you get pulled over? Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a great question. And what I like to do is to clear up a misconception. A lot of people think that you don't have to sign the ticket. Well, actually you don't have to. But if you don't, he can arrest you.
Oh, gosh.
For not signing the ticket. Because if they tell you sign the ticket is not an admission of guilt. It's telling the court that, yeah, I got this thing, I'm going to appear in court and take care of it. It's just a promise to appear. And if you don't sign the ticket, that tells me, well, I'm not coming to court. Forget the situation. And that's how warrants get issued, because you don't show up for court. So no matter how you may feel about whether or not the stop was fair, whether or not you did what he's actually accusing you of, the safest route, the most convenient route, is to sign the ticket, call us or somebody else, or fight the citation on your own. But if you refuse to sign the ticket, it actually says there, he can arrest you. Now, most officers don't, but they have the authority to do so. So why would you put yourself in that position?
Absolutely.
Not the best time to prove a point.
No. So there's two important things there that I just heard is signing, which sounds like more of acknowledgement. Like, I'm acknowledging this piece of paper
Correct.
you're giving me. You don't have to agree.
That's it.
However, it's acknowledgement. And then showing up to court, because if you don't, like you just mentioned, you could get a warrant.
Yes.
And that's not fun either.
No.
What constitutes, after a warrant, will there be like a big fine? Do you go to jail? Like, what are the ramifications of that?
That's another excellent question. With most warrants, it's, again, fine only. However, say that you get a failure to appear, as they call it. You don't show up for court here in the city of Houston. And you may go a year or 2 years. But say the next week you're in San Antonio, and this warrant shows up in the San Antonio's offices. in the investigation when they run your license there. Now you're more likely to get arrested because now you're in San Antonio, but you live in Houston. You've got this failure to appear out of Houston. You miss court there. Now they don't think you're going to come back to court for them.
Oh
so
my
at
God.
that point, you have a very good chance of getting arrested. Now, for the most part, HPD doesn't arrest people. They don't arrest people for failure to appear warrants. They wind up giving you another ticket, which now can cost up to $500 when you had an original $200 citation. Now you've got $500. And again, those surcharges and things we talked about like that, now they're in play once again when you fail to show up for court. So if at all possible, show up for court, hire somebody to represent you. If you can't go on that date, so we can get a reset and get that taken care of for you.
That's where it hurts, is when you don't take care of the ticket and you could have paid $200. What $200 already hurts. I get it. You could get a whole lot of stuff with $200. And then you don't, but then it increases from $200 and it could go up to $500, and then it could go up to $700 and up. So yeah, being the responsible is definitely what you guys should do to avoid those big surcharges. Now, once they get a warrant, can you guys help them at that level?
Oh, certainly,
Okay.
certainly. Any warrants at Greater Harris County area, we can help you. We do post bond. We can get you a new court date. There's certain things we can do. We can protect your driving record because once again, you're talking about potential license suspension. You're certainly talking about a hold on your license when you miss court. Because that gives the state of Texas sufficient leverage, like you were talking about before. Is it likely to go back to the days where it's a non-criminal offense? Not likely. I mean, because they've got so much leverage in the situation.
Right.
We like to drive. Texas is a big state. Houston's a big city.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys help out in the moving violation level, on the warrant level, any type of traffic, anything, you guys could definitely help.
Yes. Occupational license, we can help with that. We can represent people during the driver's license suspension hearings. We actually even do DWI, license, driver's license invalid. And in the event that you get stopped for driving under the influence of anything, we can help you. We're willing to be there for you.
Wow, that's awesome. And now that you're bringing up a good point, driving under the influence, we did have a past guest, a criminal defensive attorney that does that. So does this have to do a two-part attorney, the criminal and the traffic, or you guys can do anything that involves the DWI, DUI?
We can actually do both.
Okay.
Many attorneys don't. Many attorneys don't do the lower level traffic ticket itself, the misdemeanor itself. They only do the felony work, which is the driving under the influence. We can actually do both.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great little thing. And I know the statistics for Houston, Texas on DWI, DUI is pretty high.
Startling.
Yes. And I mean, part of the reason is, Houston's so large. You have to drive. I mean, to get to Humble from here, it's almost an hour drive. And it's crazy because it doesn't seem that far, but it is far.
It is.
And we're here on the west side by City Center, Westheimer, and the Beltway, just in case you guys are wondering why Humble is that far. But yeah, definitely it makes sense why those statistics are high. But a good suggestion is calling an Uber that could cost max $50 and or a Lyft. You just never know. I think that sounds way better than going through those ramifications, right?
Yeah, then run the possibility. Err on the side of caution is what I tell people.
Absolutely.
And say it's a long drive. You're right. Even traffic this time of day can be horrendous. So
yes, for sure. So we're going to move right along onto our heroic behavior. So heroic behavior is something we do every month that we give out to a client or a viewer. So we put out a wonderful picture, and on that picture, all what they have to do is go like our Facebook page, go like the picture, share it, and tag somebody that they're going to share the holidays with. So last month, we actually gave out a Christmas tree.
Oh,
isn't that awesome?
That is.
I wish you're going to get to see the video here in a little bit, but it's so rewarding to see their smile from ear to ear. So you guys, let's take a look of the video of that heroic behavior winner. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now,
Aw.
giving is, like I told you earlier, is such an awesome time, and I get the pleasure of being with those winners. So it's super awesome. And I don't know if you've actually have a natural tree or if you've gone through that process. That was my first time seeing the whole picking, cutting down, putting it on. It's just a lot of work.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun involved in it, and the kids love it. So
They love it. Yes, they love it. I remember being a child and coming home and the tree was already there. So I never got to experience what you guys just saw. So it's awesome. So we want to say definitely congratulations to Mary Jane who won, but as well as her son Mike who came to pick up the tree. So congratulations to you guys. Now this month, which is the last month of the year, we're doing Heroic Behavior, the last one of the year, which is giving out a $50 gift certificate.
Hey.
Yeah, right? So that can always come very handy, especially around the holidays, to buy at least your last gift that you wanted to give to your child or your significant other. You just never know, $50 can go a long way. So all you guys have to do is go to our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, like this picture that you guys see on the screen, as well as tag someone you're going to spend the holidays with, and make sure you share the picture on your Facebook page. That all of those things qualify you to be a potential winner. That's awesome. It's easy and it's free.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything else. So that's awesome. Make sure you guys do that so that you have a chance to win a $50 gift certificate. Now, we're coming to the end, and I want to ask you, Attorney Donald Jenkins, if you had to leave our viewers with one good either quote or suggestion or anything you want to leave them with, what would you leave them with?
Make good choices. The choices that you make today can have consequences for the rest of your life. And even though we all go through ups and downs, we all have things that give us problems from time to time, there are people out there that are willing to help. Slow down, make good choices, think about what you're doing, and have a happy holiday.
Absolutely. Well said. Making good choices. I know we talked a lot about in the show on disability law as well as traffic violations. And it's super important to make those great choices so that it doesn't hinder your life as well as other lives. So that was a great quote by Attorney Donald Jenkins. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Hopefully we have you again.
I certainly hope
Yeah,
so.
awesome. So let us know if you'd like to see him again on the show. I'd like to thank all our viewers for watching the show as well as sharing this program so your family members and friends can see it. Thank you for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. Your host, Madi B. Bye.